You're listening to Genuine Chit-Chat. This show is for real.
Hello there, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit-Chat. This week, I'm again joined by Jarrod Speed. Now, if you didn't tune in last week, go back and check out that episode, as this is part 2 of mine and Jarrod's chat. And, sometimes when I do part 1 and 2, you can listen to part 2 without hearing part 1, but in this case, you really need to hear part 1 for part 2 to make any sense. In brief, Jarrod Speed attempted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro to do an obstacle course at the summit for a world record attempt. Obviously, if you've heard part 1, which you should have done by now, you'll know that he did not fully succeed in the world record attempt. He went with a group of 42 people, and an amount of them managed to succeed, but some of them didn't quite make it. So in this part, we specifically talk about how he sort of dealt with the journey itself, how he kind of dealt with his initial failure, but more so the light at the end of the tunnel, what he's going to do going forward, how he's learned from this, and how kind of at the end of the day, it's not necessarily actually a failure. It's more so just something he didn't succeed at, which he is going to try again down the line. Now, I'm not going to waffle on here too much about it, but obviously what I've just mentioned is generally the main amount of what we talk about. But in addition to that, Jarrod kind of goes in depth about his mindset, including the Japanese term Kaizen, as well as the Wim Hof influence he's had, and a few other bits and pieces like that. So this one is definitely like a review of his self-described failure and just a positive mindset going forward, and showing that, if you get knocked down, you can just get back up again, and that's the important thing. As usual, guys, all the links to Jarrod's stuff is in the description. His float center, which I've been to a couple of times, his Muscle Ape Fitness Company, as well as his Instagrams for both of these as well. So, make sure you go follow him and stuff, and just check the show notes because loads of other information in there, including guest spots and other stuff that I've done too. And the last thing to add here before the chat gets started is that I released part 1 and part 2 in one full unsplit episode on my Patreon, patreon.com/genuinechitchat. A link to that is in the description. And also that whenever I release part 1 and part 2 on this feed, obviously when part 2 drops, Patreon's already had access to part 2. So I always release a special additional Afterthoughts episode on there as well. So if you did become a Patreon supporter for as little as £1 a month, you not only get an episode of Afterthoughts every week, usually on a Wednesday or a Thursday, but in addition to that, whenever a 2-parter is released on this feed, when part 2 drops, you get an additional one there as well. So you get even more content from me. And the one I released today was me and Megan doing a spoiler-free review of Guns Akimbo, which is a Daniel Radcliffe movie that is absolutely bonkers. And for the first 10 minutes or so, me and her are just waffling on about other nonsense. So if you want to hear about that, get some additional content, early access to stuff, and support the show, please consider checking out my Patreon. But that'll be it from me, guys. So I bring you Jarrod Speed, and I'll be back at the end for more information of what's coming up. Welcome to Genuine Chit-Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people. And I'm your host, Mike Burton.
I want to go back and be another visitor, but I want to go to the top this time.
Yeah.
So when that'll be, I don't know. Probably after the long time I've spent away this time.
Yeah.
Not going to be too soon, but maybe like 2025, I'd like to build up to that. There's a few other mountains I want to go and do, like Tublak in Morocco in the Atlas Mountains, and I want to go and do Mount Fuji in Japan, but all of these little mountain trips will fit in nicely with family holidays to these countries. So,
yeah.
So because that was another big takeaway, was I've got 2 very young children at home, a 13-year-old whose birthday I missed to go and do this, and that again made it more bitter for me that I couldn't have said, that when Tom was away, at least I'd done this.
Yeah.
But the big thing with that was I had to spend 11 nights in a quarantine hotel.
Yeah.
Upon coming back to Heathrow. So not only was I away for 11 days away from my family, then I was then away for 11 nights in a quarantine hotel. So in total, I think it's like 23 days I was away.
Yeah.
That is a long time to leave my girlfriend with my kids. Now, my kids are pretty intense.
Yeah.
So, and
they're at that age now, aren't they?
They're little shits.
You were telling me before we pressed record.
Yeah.
Misadventures.
No, she, to spend that amount of time with the kids on your own is another thing.
Yeah.
But, so I think going forward, like I said, it wasn't my like midlife crisis at 40 going, all right, I've got to go and do this adventure. But like I want to share those adventures with other groups of people now.
Yeah.
And I want my family to be part of it somehow. So this is the the thing that's come about from this is it's great meeting all those people, but I'd love the people that I know and spend a lot of time with to come together and meet these people as well.
Yeah.
And like Amy and Bethany, they came over and spent some time in Southampton, before having like a little so we all went to Manchester. I drove them back, had a bit of a whirlwind tour of Southampton, Winchester. They then went to London and did stuff there, flew home. They're now going to become part of the Mud Apes, whereas they're coming to the rat race.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And they're going to come stay with me. Then we're going to go and they're going to come race. So they're honorary apes.
Oh.
And they're going to come race with us at the rat race and any other races. And then in the future, like hopefully, like we can get more and more people to come and be part of it.
Yeah.
Of the group that we met. So that's hopefully should be.
That's killer. I know that this is going to sound like I'm trying, like I can see that, you know, obviously it's affected you, but obviously you say you've got over it and stuff, and that's completely fine. I want to clarify what I'm about to say isn't trying to sugarcoat or comfort you, but it generally feels like, you know, Rocky as an example, Rocky 1. Yeah. He doesn't win, but it's still considered one of the greatest films ever, sort of thing. I'm thinking of the right film, aren't I? Rocky 1.
Yeah. He doesn't win.
No, but he's still.
But he did win. Yeah, because he was meant to fail miserably.
Exactly.
I mean, hopefully, I wasn't. I mean, I guess it.
But it's not just that. I want to add, just with, if you think of like a lot of stories, like I mean, I still do play a fair amount of video games, but I used to play a shitload of video games, and a lot of video games start, or a good portion of them, and a lot of action movies start where you fight the final boss first.
Yeah.
And you get your ass handed to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you beat that boss first time, you wouldn't have learned
anything. It'd be a 5-minute film.
You'd have just been like, oh, cool, I won, sweet, back to my life. But because you lost, and not that you did spectacularly because you weren't taken down on a stretcher, but there were some severe problems, you know, obviously dehydration, all that sort of shit. So you did that and you came back and were like, okay, I need to improve on my cardio. I need to improve on this. I need to know about altitude. I need to do this. And it's like beating this boss. It's like, then, you know, the build up to the end and the journeys you go through to get to that point. Once you beat the final boss or whatever, the second time round, you are far, far higher up and far a better version of yourself than you would have been
quite like that
if you just scraped yourself. You know what I mean?
I think that's probably right then. So, because technically, I thought in my head that would have been the middle of the film, that I'd go and do this cool adventure and then it'd be like some...
This is before, your Kilimanjaro's before the title even came up. Yeah. This was you laying on the floor bloodied, and then the title comes up, Jarrod Speed, and then the credits start, and then you see yourself recovering in the hospital, going for it. Because, what you don't want to do is, I think that you, as an individual, you'd have been proud of yourself for doing that, and obviously, you know, with your daughters and things, that's obviously a factor, and, you know, the people that you feel like you've let down, but if you'd have just scraped by that and you'd have limped to the finish and you'd have got there, there would obviously be that part of you that had been like, I fucking made it. I did it first. But then I think there would have been that part of you that said, but I barely did. Watching all these other people who fucking gunning it and doing the obstacle course and all this other stuff, you would have limped there and gone like, oh, I only just did it. I've got kidney problems now. I've got this sort of stuff. I just did it. And maybe there'd have been that part of you that thought, did I really make it? If I was 5 minutes different, I wouldn't have made this. I don't feel like it's justified in a sense. And you might have beaten yourself up, but you might not have had the same degree of fire underneath you to make you go, I'm going to go back and fucking smash it.
I think if I would have done it, I think that I would have probably gone, right, that's Mountaineering done.
Yeah.
Tick.
Yeah.
And I'm quite glad now because it's made me obviously stand back and say, right, well, obviously I've ran before I can walk. Like you said, I've had my ass handed to me by that mountain, ha 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 ha. And I'm like, and it's like, go away and learn kung fu. And it's like, so now it makes me want to run, makes me want to be fitter, lighter, because that is another factor. Like, if you think of calorie intake that I would have needed to sustain my days up that mountain, there's no way I could have been hitting it. No way. Like, I mean, in the evening, I was having to put like tablespoons of butter, mix it in with my rice or my noodles we were having, or the stew, like just so I could have some calories for the next day.
Yeah.
But, but like just not eating. So going up that mountain 40 kilos lighter. So I've sort of give myself a little task of losing 30 to 40 kilos in the next 5 years. That's very doable. It's quite, if
And some with your motivation, you could.
yeah, and then, I mean, it's always good to not have like a spare tire around your middle because of the problem, especially like now. I'm in like the death zone of like being. The older you get, the harder it is going to be to shift weight. So if I can slowly just get that weight off, if I can slowly become fitter, if I can slowly ease myself into doing more events, but when I go to do it again, hopefully I will be like that group that are up the front, the cheaters. I can be leading a group, and it be a fun experience instead of literally thinking, "Kill me," because honestly, some of those days, I think if someone would have said, "Come back," because we were staying at this lovely lodge, Chania Lodge. There was like a swimming pool, there was a bar, like nice room, like you could sit out and just sit in the sun, and there's a garden there. If someone would have gone, "Just come back, just do it," like there was parts of me thinking, "Yeah, all right, anything but doing this," like trudging to my death, like, and it literally felt like some days like. There's these false summits. So one of the porter's favourite thing to obviously encourage you to go. You go, "How far?" And they go, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're like, we're not 5 minutes from anything here, you liar. But you're like, you're not going to go liar. So you go, okay. And, an hour later, "How far?" 5 minutes. And you're like, all right, okay. So that, no sense of time. And I go, "Up, down, up, how far?" And they're like, up. You go down, then you go up. Then we're there, and you're like, okay. And I remember once so this was, again, I'm not sure if this was after, this is maybe into day 3. So this is we've done the Branco Wall, we're going to another camp. And I said, "How far?" Like, where? Where are we going? He went, "You see there? We're going to go up here. We're going to go down, and then we go up, down, up, and then we're there. Easy." I'm like, okay, down, up. So we go up, and it's like, you're talking 20 meters, took 5 minutes, and you're up. And then we're going down, and I can just see this flat. It's like a dip, but it goes up at the end. And I'm thinking, well, that's easy. This is pretty much on the flat for that mountain. Yeah. This is great. And then as we're getting, I'm like, "And where then?" He's like, "Yeah, just up, but we go down and we go up." I'm thinking, we are down, like. And as we're getting closer and closer, I can see the camps. You can see the yellow tents. When you see yellow tents, that's the goal. You can see these little yellow tents. Oh, we're there. We're nearly there. And as we're going, I can just see like this, almost looks like a river, like a riverbed, like, and you're like, what? That's getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you realise the down is a 400 metre climb down to go up a 400 metre climb up.
Jesus.
To then you're at camp. And I'm like, it's soul destroying. And like, it's those false summits because you're getting there and down and up. That porter doesn't care. That is down and up to him. And it's no bother for him. And this was at a point I got followed. There's a bit of a running joke now with that group that the vultures were circling for me. I was being followed by a mountain dog.
Oh my God.
A wild mountain dog. So I'm sure he was probably thinking,
you're sensing,
6 months worth of food walking around there. Just follow him. And he looks weak. He's very slow. Maybe he'll die. So there was this running joke. And there was, at one point, these birds, like these circling birds, and thinking, yeah, they're waiting for me to drop. So like that become a bit of that's like a running joke now with the group that the birds are waiting for me. I'll never give them their meal. So that was
that's brilliant.
Win.
It was also, I was thinking, when you lead the next group up the mountains of Kilimanjaro as well, you have a new level of empathy and sympathy of being in the position where you didn't make it. And at least if there are people who are struggling in things, you have that, because, a lot of the individuals you went with who are obviously super athletes, they're lovely people and stuff. I'm not trying to take away from them as people, but if they've never been in the situation that you were in, which is, for bluntly, failed in your eyes, then they wouldn't have I think the term is they'd empathize with people, but they wouldn't sympathize. I always get those two mixed up. But, one is you've been there and one's you can imagine being there. But you've been there. You have, for your term, failed in that sense, which is also really good. And it's one of those things where this is going to sound corny, but you are actually inspiring me a lot, because you don't always have to succeed in your own goals in life to succeed in the long run. Like, one thing, we were talking about this at work today, actually, because I was telling people I was going to be speaking with you, and a friend of mine at work, he was talking about climbing Everest, and the amount of people who've died up there, and the oxygen tanks that are left up there, because obviously Everest is like an whole other bloody level.
People left up there.
Yeah.
They can't bring the bodies down.
Yeah, exactly, and there's not enough oxygen, they doesn't decompose the bodies, they're just kind of mummified there.
And a lot of them are used
that's the sitting blue
jacket body.
Yeah.
As a marker.
Exactly. Yeah.
On that mountain.
Yeah. So, which is mental and stuff. So we were talking about that and stuff at work. And it's like, one thing that one of my colleagues said was, the thing is, and it's a slightly different conversation, but still links, is that you don't actually, if you're always given everything you want, that's not always what's best for you.
No.
And I know we can't do this because we're not fucking magic. But sometimes I like to think with my life, the thing I talk about on the podcast a lot is my dad passing away when I was 19. That's like I call it an anchor point. Is that point in my life is one of the biggest causes to make me who I am now. And it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me, but it's the best thing that's ever happened to my character. I've grown the most and become such a better person from going through that shit. And I would like to think that this is an anchor point for you, where this is, you have succeeded with your businesses. You've succeeded with your family. You've done so many successes that it's kind of like, in some ways, an ego boost in a way, where it's like, you won't succeed at everything. And that's okay.
It did. I'll tell you what, it's really weird. But almost, it was nice because it's knocked me down a peg or two.
Yeah.
Well, 3. At one hand, it's knocked me down pegs 1 and 2. I'm down at peg 3. It knocked me down so much because it made me realise how unfit I was, where I've now got to go, how far I've got to go.
Yeah,
and I didn't really think. Like I said, I think you hit it quite well when you said, if I'd have gotten to the top, there'd have been no lessons learned, and I'd have thought, well, I got to the top of this mountain. If I'd have even done the Guinness World Record, Christ, I'd have been milking that. Like, well, I'm a Guinness World Record
now talking to me about it, you'd be like,
I'm a Guinness World, and I'd probably
wear a badge all the time.
And and I'd like to think I wouldn't be one of them people who go, have I told you about a Guinness World Record? Like, oh, sorry, I'm just,
I'm just waiting for the bus.
I'm just waiting for the bus. Like, I know, I've stopped to tell you specifically. But I think if I would have done all of that, I think I wouldn't, like I said, where I said I'm unfit, I've got to refocus. There's things that I need to have laser focus on that I haven't. I've just been blasé about it. I think I'd have still been in that mindset.
Yeah.
But with the ego boost, well, I can do anything I want. And when you realise you're not bulletproof and that you are the bottom of a pack of people, like going in, like if I said to you, look, I'm going to stick you in a room with 100 men, where do you think you stack on that pack? And most people go, well,
70, 80, 90.
70, 80, 90, top. And I knew I wouldn't be at the top of that because of the people that were going, but I thought, well, I'm not going to be, and again, it's a stupid thing of saying, trying to compare yourself, but I didn't think I'd be bottom of that pack of people, and I was. And it just really, it's humbled me a bit, and I like to think I've now got focuses to now maybe not ever be at the top, because you've got to remember there's people that are in that race, I guess, or that pecking order who have been at this and self-improving and making themselves better and have got iron will, like laser focus, and their disciplines like a Japanese samurai. They're at the top of their game. They're so driven. Yeah. I've got a long way to catch up to that. And even just to be half of what Dave's doing or what Christina's doing or what Heidi's doing, like Heidi, Daniel's spoken about, who didn't get to the top. His wife Heidi is, again, don't want to misspeak, and you never want to misage a lady. I believe she's 62. Now, when you think of 62-year-olds, you think old person.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not.
You don't
these
think
days,
young,
but like
young and fit.
You
That's
don't
not
think,
the first thing you come to.
The shoulders on Heidi, like I said this to her. I said, if you put on a pair of boxing gloves, I'd be really scared of you, that you'd smash me to death. She's jacked. She's she looks like a top level CrossFit athlete. Well, she is a top level class. She wins competitions like Spartan. She does Spartan races. She is like amazing. And again, just inspirational that like there's 25-year-old CrossFitters should wipe the floor with.
Yeah.
And you with all these people, and to just be up there with them at some point would be, you know, breathing rarefied air right at the top, you know. So again, I think one of the, probably the biggest plus, the people I met, 100%.
Yeah.
The people I met have been the biggest. Like, I think I probably would have been saying this different if I'd have won the Guinness World Record, but the people I met on that trip, all of them. Yeah. And again, I'd love a list of names but no one have any reference what I'm doing. And another example, there's a girl, Garda, that was there from Iraq, had moved to Canada, States, lives in Dubai, this is what she told me. She was like a fashionista, a proper like mall mum. So she would go shopping, eat in restaurants, all the rest of it. She's now the most influential female fitness figure in the Middle East. Broken loads of what are like institutionalized attitudes of women in the Middle East. Yeah. She's hated because like by some elements, because it's like almost like she shouldn't be doing that, but she's so inspirational, just like that alone. And she's, I think running's her thing. So this was, I'm pretty sure mountaineering, it was maybe her first, but her fitness level was great. And, but again, like I could keep, like, they just keep springing in my head. Oh, that person, this person, that person. Luke, Australian guy called Luke Hepworth, philanthropist.
Okay.
So, is constantly doing charity work. Like he literally come back from Kilimanjaro, and about 3 weeks later was doing Walking with the Wounded, where they walked across the width of the country. And he was out cycling with Richard Branson on Necker, doing some sort of charity thing out there with Richard and Sam Branson. Yeah. Like,
it's mental.
He was part of the team that put the Red Bull space capsule up where the guy jumped.
Oh, Felix Baumgartner or whatever.
Yeah, so he was part of that.
Oh my God.
Like, again, these are the people that I'm hanging around the mountain up.
Yeah, I need to get with some of your friends. They're like great guests for the show.
Yeah, I mean, but then there were people, like I said, who they're just like doing 9 to 5 jobs and wanted an adventure as well, and they're doing that, and kind of didn't matter about any of those, what people were doing. Like, everyone was there for the same thing. And the bond as a group was, I mean, there were, like I said, there was people I didn't see until the food tent because they're gone, you know, but, no snobbery, no one looked down on me for, like, oh God, like, why is he, well, maybe they did. Maybe they didn't say it, like, it's too big, but, yeah, but like I said, there was just some great people there, and I think that was the biggest thing for me, is some of the friends I've made. I've hopefully made some lifelong friends. Yeah. And it's great.
Well, it also must be very humbling in the same sense, still in that same vein of, in air quotes, failure of, if you had succeeded, you would have potentially looked at yourself where, oh, I'm as good as these people. And I'm not saying you're not as good of a person. You know, I'm not trying to, because I don't like to say that some people.
No, I think if personality, I'll keep to the personality.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I was as good as them.
Yeah, just like,
just not as good as mountain climbing.
Exactly. But then, because you clearly didn't, and you are now literally looking up to them literally and metaphorically, because I was top of the mountain, and you're now like, that's almost a goal, that's something to strive for. They're inspiring me, not just because they're inspirational people, but because I walked a mile in their shoes and I couldn't do it. Yeah. And so I think it's incredible, and the amount of things, I'm sure that at the end of, in 5 years' time, I'm sure you'll be looking back and being, that failure was one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, I think so.
And this is only a few months ago, wasn't it? This is was it October that you?
It feels like, honestly, like, I think with obviously COVID, like Christmas even feels like months and months ago.
It does feel like that to me as well. Yeah.
I mean, what is it? 15 days, just over 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, mental.
Like a few Saturdays ago, it was Christmas, and that feels like that was.
That is,
yeah, it's a few Saturdays. It's a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, and I feel like that was months and months ago. Yeah, and so Kilimanjaro feels like a year away, like a year ago.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, no, I feel like definitely that I learned a lot of lessons, that I feel humbled by it, and it's definitely, like I said, it's knocked me down so many pegs that I needed to be knocked down for different reasons, and it's making me so something that I'm trying to, like, my word of the year for 2022 is Kaizen. Right. So the Japanese art of self-discipline, which is small, tiny movements equate to the biggest changes. So, like this year, I'm starting. So this Saturday, I'm doing Couch to 5K.
Okay, yeah.
I'm starting that, but with my Mud Apes group. So I will run as much as I can because I'm not a runner.
Yeah.
I hate running. I detest it.
Yeah,
but
I'm not a fan either.
I want to be better at it because it's part of what I want to do. And I think I will flip the switch. Like Christina, again, who I mentioned, she hated running for 2 years. She's now a world champion trail runner and ultra runner.
Yeah.
That's her job.
Is the ultra marathon, is that like the 200?
An ultra, I think anything that's classed as an ultra is anything over, I want to say 40 or 50.
Yeah, because I think a standard, it says half marathon's about 13 miles, full marathon's like 26 point something miles. And
26.2. And then
yeah,
ultra running's anything that's, I'm sure it's anything 40 miles plus.
Yeah, yeah.
And but she went from being a boxer, she was a teacher, she started doing runs. So she done a run through the Amazon basin.
Yeah.
She then did a run in Antarctica and she won a World Series doing this.
Yeah.
And I just said to her, like you've always loved running then, because doing boxing, she went, I hated running. She said, I'd avoid it. She said, and I said, well, how long did it take you? Thinking, oh, maybe she did Couch to 5K. Yeah. Probably not. But, and she went 2 years. And you think, imagine doing something you hated for 2 years, not like something you had to do, like a job or speak to a family member, something like my girlfriend probably has with me. But like that. Imagine, like, if I said to you, right,
do the dishes.
You're going to eat, do the dishes for 2 years, and you're like, well, I've got a dishwasher. I'm like, no, force yourself to do. You're like, why? And I said, just stick at it. A couple of years, you'll learn to love it. But then just think of doing something you hated for 2 years. So she's done something she hated for 2 years. It's now her job. She runs Crick's Run. She's constantly running events. She's constantly running. I mean, she goes out, like, you look at her Instagram story, it's like, oh, I've done a 20k run. Like, for me, that's like, Jesus, I'd rather stick pins in my eye, like just the thought of running that distance, it'd be like, geez. But she loves it. And it's like, and I think, so that's one of my small adjustments is Couch to 5K. It's a tiny thing. It's 3 times a week. Take me half an hour. So it's 90 minutes out of my week.
Megan did that last year, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It'll be a good thing for me. I was learning to play the saxophone before I went. I need to get back on that. And that's a half an hour lesson I'm going to do every other week. Small adjustment to make and then, because I went in the gym for the first time at work, my police job. We've got a fairly decent gym. I went in there for the first time on Monday. And I haven't done anything since I got back from Kilimanjaro, because I got back, was in an isolation hotel. We had a crappy car park to train, and the guy that I was sharing a room with, Dan, poor guy, having to share a room with me. When I completed Netflix, I was so bored. But I went to train in the car park, and my knees were killing. I was just doing skipping. I got sent a skipping rope by my coach, Kathy, from Muscle Ape. She sent me a little care package, and I got some elastics. And I thought, right, I'll take them down to the car park, and I started skipping. My knees were killing me.
Yeah.
The downhill, like, walk had toasted my kneecaps. So they're actually in a lot more pain than when I went out, and still in pain now. Not as much, but I couldn't even skip. Something as simple as just bouncing up and down spot, and it felt like daggers being pushed in my knee. So I thought, well, I'm not going to run until they're better. And then I sort of had this, like the lurgy, I was like, and I've got diverticulitis, so I'll get problems with my stomach. I had that for like a month. That's still a little bit ongoing, but it's all starting the fog's clearing now. I've got to stop using crap excuses as a crutch for why my stomach, my knees. I can't do it. Like, if you just do that forever, you're just such a waste. So I'm thinking, right, just get on with it. Little sip of concrete, a little teaspoon of concrete, and harden the fuck up. Like, just get on with it, I need to just get on with it now. Yeah. So this year's Kaizen, it's little tiny adjustments to my life to make the big change. Yeah. And hopefully by the end of this year, and then next year, more tiny adjustments to pull it all together, like I said, to go and fight the final boss, which is Kilimanjaro. But I really want to make those changes and eventually that being the end goal.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll smash it. I mean, linking still with the final boss analogy, I was just thinking like, in a game, it's pretty much the same sort of analogy, but I was just thinking like, sometimes you'll have an objective in a game and it's like, go pick up this artifact.
Side quest.
Cool, yeah. What's weird thing is like, is the main mission, air quotes, is like, oh, go pick up this golden monkey or something. And I'm thinking about Indiana Jones sort of stuff, but still. I go pick up this gold monkey and you can see it in the distance. You're like, oh, I'll go do that. And then you go reach for it and then you fall down a hole or something and then you're like, okay. And then another little thing, get out of the hole. Okay, do another thing, then another thing. And then after about 5 minutes of playing, you realise, oh no, that gold monkey thing, that's the last thing I have to do. And to get there, I thought it was just go there, do it, done. Yeah. But it's not. There's these hidden quests inside of it. And I think that with you, what's cool is that because you're also reevaluating your own fitness levels as well, and hopefully I would assume that you'd know by now if you did, you haven't done any long-lasting damage to yourself. Hopefully now it's like you could, this, in air quotes once again, I don't like using this term, but it works in this, the failure, in air quotes, this might actually elongate your life a lot, because if you were thinking like cardio is very good, because obviously you know all about this sort of stuff as well, but cardio is, really good for keeping yourself alive and keeping yourself going and things. I'm thinking, if you had succeeded at this thing and you'd have absolutely, even if you'd smashed it, you'd have gone, completely, mate, done. I don't need to change anything about my fitness regime. Exactly. And then you could have got to, your mid-50s or something, and then your body could have started falling apart. But now, because you've had that experience of gone, as you said earlier, you're not bulletproof, you can't do everything, you're going to make these little changes, and that will improve your overall fitness in a less linear way, in a much more several aspects way, which will probably in the long term make you actually live longer. But a lot of people, even people who are fit and things, may not even recognize that until it's too late in some ways.
We all know that person that you bump into from school. Not much has changed. Like, oh wait, live like, and again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to live in the area you grew up in.
No, of course.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they're doing a job they've been doing since they're 16. It's not a bad thing, but there's almost like if you're just a carbon copy of your mum and dad, like I think.
Are you living or are you just breathing?
Yeah, you're just existing.
Exactly.
Like you're literally like worker bee.
Yeah. And
you'll be replaced at any point. But like, I think it's just nice that you can just change little aspects of yourself for the better. And like I said, it's, for me, it's just improving different little aspects of my life. Like I'm looking to become a Wim Hof breathing instructor.
I saw Wim Hof today. That's amazing. Yeah. He's inspirational.
So another little change, they had the Black Friday sale and I thought, right, get it.
Yeah.
So I've bought the Wim Hof Fundamentals course, which you have to do to then go on to do the main instructor course. Yeah. That's something I'm focused. That's what I'm going to do.
And that's specific breathing exercises, because that's this whole thing, I assume. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's cold exposure. And these are all things I'm interested in, because I'll go sea swimming. I went the other day, so just to jump in. And I've only been going in, I hadn't been sea swimming since before Kilimanjaro, and the water was, it was beach weather. Like there's no like, oh my God, I've just jumped in the sea. It's like, yeah, it's lovely. That's why, because it's really sunny outside and the water's lovely. I went from that, and then I went in, must have been about a week ago, and it was horrendous. Boxing Day I went in.
I think I saw your Instagram post. I was like, better you than me, mate.
And it was, and I was like, oh Christ, it was freezing. Then I went in last week, and I want that to become regular, but that's all to do with the cold exposure and the breathing exercises where you can just become resistant to cold, essentially.
Yeah.
But also has a lot of other aspects of helping you, like de-stressing you.
I think it really is got cold shock proteins and things like that, which is just something I've repeated from hearing Rogan talk about it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, to have that, even having so they say that with cold exposure should be 2 to 3 minutes. So with the Wim Hof stuff, it's like just be in a warm shower and then turn it to cold for 10 seconds. If you can.
Yeah.
And it's that, again, little adjustments make for the bigger thing. So eventually you're having a 3-minute freezing cold shower.
Yeah.
And then eventually doing that forces your body to boost your immune, so you fight disease better, because you're daily shocking your body into just becoming a better vessel for yourself. And it's I just can't wait to do that. So that, again, a little thing. There's little things that I'm adding on to my massage, just a few different qualifications like chiropractic adjustment course and hot stone mat, and just all these little things that just make what I've got better. But it's small adjustments. So I haven't said, right, I'm going to do a physiotherapy degree. Like, more than likely, again, don't want to say I can't do anything, but that would not fit in with my life, with how busy I am.
You'll be realistic, yeah.
I can't. So, and again, it's, if like people are thinking of doing a 5k run, don't set yourself the goal that you've got to do at the end of January. If you think about the Kaizen principle and you go, right, by next Christmas, I will do a 5k run. That'll be my regular thing 3 times a week. How do you get there? Well, if you do couch to 5k, you can do that. If you say, right, I want to lose, might be a woman who go, I want to drop a dress size. The guy might go, right, I've got a bit of a dad bod. I've got I've got a beer belly, but I look like a frog that's been held up by the back of its neck. I'm all spindly everywhere else apart from this big beer belly. So it's unrealistic to go, right, I'm going to drop 5 stone by March. It's like, that's never going to happen. But if you say, right, I want to lose 10 kilos by the end of the year, that's really doable. Yeah. Because you can do that in small increments and it will be really slight adjustments. Like if you just said to someone, right, I'm going to take 50 calories off you every week. Yeah. Because you're consuming like 4,000, but you really need to be doing like 2,800. If you just took 50 calories off someone a week, that gradual change, then you're not going to miss 50 calories. Not really. No. You would if you did it, if you said, right, I'm going to take 500 calories off you straight away or 1,000 calories. And there's some people that do really stupid, dramatic, restrictive calorie diets and like to that of a toddler. Yeah. And yeah, you will see results, but you're going to get headaches. You're going to be miserable. Yeah, it's not good for you. You're going to be horrible to be around because you're going to be hangry all the time. But if you took that 50 calories and just did that, and I think I'm trying to do that for myself now. So I'm trying to little adjustments to my life. And I don't think I'd have made those if I'd have got to the top of that mountain by the skin of my teeth. And yeah, I really think I'd have been like, well, I've done it. Yeah. Completed it, mate. And I'd have, completed it, mate. And it's, mountain, completed it, mate. And I think if you do that, then, so for me, I needed that knocking down. Yeah. And so again, it's a very expensive lesson to learn and it's gutting because I don't have that. And I think, I would have had a different attitude altogether. And I don't think it would have been a better one. Yeah. I think I've got the better one from the failure. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But there's no crutch. And the thing is, all my kidneys are and all, that I didn't prepare enough for that mountain. I paid the price. Yeah. But I've learnt my lesson. And if you have a crutch in your life where, I wasn't encouraged enough by, you're responsible for your motivation and I've got loads of motivational people around me. I've got people telling me, come on, do this. And I'm like, yeah. But if you're the one that's failing to engage, then that's on you. And if you don't climb a mountain because you didn't push yourself to do more, that's on you. So all of it's on me. There's no one to blame. There's no other factors. It was all me. My kidneys would have probably been better prepared if I'd have hydrated more in the run up to going, like if I'd have drunk more water or, And
that's inspirational in its own way. It truly is inspirational. And I think that people who interact with you going forward will see that. There's no better teacher than failure. They're always hard lessons to learn. Yeah. But it is always the best way forward, and it's a small anecdote for me is when I was in college, I did a little YouTube thing. It's kind of how I started in the media creating realm. I had a YouTube show with a mate of mine, and then I made music videos and stuff. And we were talking, wouldn't it be cool if we did YouTube and we got really famous or something like that? Wouldn't that be amazing? And I'm thinking, first of all, when I was like in college, I was 16, 17, I was a massive dick. So I wasn't, not a dick like horrible to people, but I was just an arrogant twat. I needed to be pulled down a few pegs, and fortunately life did that to me several times. But if I'd have got famous, I'm not famous now, but if I'd have got what I wanted then, if I'd have got famous at the age of 17 or 18 from YouTube, I'd be a fucking asshole now. And I wouldn't have started the podcast because I'd be like, it's the YouTube stuff. People just want me. And I'd have probably become even more of an egotistical dick than I was then. Yeah. And it would have been the worst thing for me. It's what I wanted, but it would have been the worst thing for me. And because of me being like, I still want to create content. I still want to talk to people. I still want to do something. I did the podcast. And because of things, I've spoken to people like yourself and I've spoken to loads of other people who have either added benefit to my life in certain ways or who have inspired me in other ways. And I think that, yeah, it's just, you shouldn't always get what you want. And unfortunately, it's not always an easy lesson to learn. It's not always a nice thing to go through. And most of the time, it's really shit while it happens. But when someone is introspective, and especially when someone is as driven as yourself, you're going to turn this around. You're going to fucking smash it. And then, 5 less years, you're going to be living an even better life than you were. And it can all be down to this anchor point. And it's, I appreciate you sharing the story of your failure with us, because it's something that people, it's all well and good speaking to people who succeed at everything and stuff, but some people do get disheartened by that, and some people are like, well, they succeed at everything. Jarrod, of course he climbed Kilimanjaro with no effort. He's a police officer. Well, it's more complicated than that, but in layman's terms. And also he's got muscle ape, and he's got his float lab, and he's got all these other things. Of course he could do it. But then people go, oh, with someone like Jarrod Speed couldn't do it because he wasn't prepared and he's open about that, then if I'm going to attempt something like that, I know that I need to really try myself. I couldn't just skate through it. So I think this is going to be inspiring for yourself, but also like your kids and things. It's a good thing to be like, look, guys, I wanted to do this for you. I did, but I didn't prepare enough. That's 100% on me. I take responsibility for this. And I think that is a very admirable thing to do and to admit to people. So I do want to thank you for being so open about speaking to me and the audience about this thing, because I think more people need to know that failure is not permanent. It's failure. You can let it be. You can fail at something and give up at everything, and then that's the real failure, is when you give up. Yeah. But it's like, Tech9 says this a lot. It doesn't matter how many times you fall down. It matters how many times you get back up. Okay? Everyone gets knocked down at some point. But it's the trying to get back up. That's what Spider-Man's famous for. That's what Captain America's famous for. All our favourite superheroes, they don't just, scathe through everything and win every battle necessarily. They lose some, and then they learn and get better and then win them. So I think that, obviously at the time, if I told you this, base camp Mount Kilimanjaro, you'd probably punch me in the face. But not literally, I wasn't a violent person. But you know what I mean? Like this sort of lesson.
I think the only people I interacted with are people that had done it, or they knew people that had done it.
Yes.
And I mean, I think, I remember this quite distinctly. There's a sergeant I worked with, real nice guy, quite laid back. He went, mate, that's what they call it, every man's Everest. I thought, I'm going to do this. And in my head, I thought, don't really need to, I'm doing enough training as it is. It's every man's Everest. And talking myself into an easy game, instead of going, instead of tackling it and being over prepared, like you should be for anything.
Yep.
I just went into it going, piss, every man's Everest.
Yeah.
And you start saying that mantra, well, I can just take my foot off the pedal now.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I had all these, because obviously it got cancelled the first year.
Yeah.
Because of COVID. And then they were like, no, it's going ahead next year, regardless.
Yeah.
It's happening. Okay, I can do this. I think it really knocked the wind out of my sails. And again, it's not a crutch, like, it's their fault for not running it when they should have run it, like a little baby. Like, should have run it. But I think if it would have ran that first year, I'd have been better prepared, because I was in a place where I was like, right, I've got to train for this. But I think even so Dan, this guy we shared a flight over, we shared a room at the lodge, we shared a tent all the way up. He had to put up my snoring, I had to put up with his smelly feet and his farting, but fair trade-off. But we then shared a lodge on when we got back down from the mountain. We then shared a plane back. We then shared a hotel room for 11 days, like pretty much lived with each other. So this guy's put on me 23 days. Now, me and him were chatting with a group of us, and we didn't even think it was going to happen. We thought there's going to be some lockdown, there's going to be some travel restrictions, there's going to be something where they just say it's not happening again, or we'll postpone it another year, and it was only when we got to the lodge, we turned around and went, oh, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And I think, again, not to use it as a crutch, because it was on me to prepare, but there was part of me that thought it wasn't going to happen. So why bother? Again, these stupid games you play with your head, whereas really, well, I could walk and actually enjoy just being fit and ready to go up a mountain. Could be any mountain, didn't have to be Kilimanjaro, but why didn't I do that? And again, that negative self-talk that you let your mind become lazy and accustomed to and accept, where you accept laziness in your life and say, yeah, well, it might not happen. And no, I should have been preparing even harder because, you know, what if, for whatever reason, imagine someone saying, oh, look, you've won a free trip to another mountain, and you go, oh, well, so I think now I would like to be in a position where I could get a week's notice and I could go, yeah, I can go.
Yeah.
And nothing will hold me back because my fitness won't be an issue, my weight won't be an issue, my health won't be an issue, nothing.
Yeah.
And I think having that preparedness to be ready to do anything, I think that is probably a better way to describe it. I just want everything to be better in my life, that I can be better equipped to. I should be always ready in my life to climb a Kilimanjaro.
Perfect. I mean, that's an absolutely excellent way to end it, because we've been chatting for, well, an hour and 40 minutes thereabouts. So,
really?
Yeah, sorry. Unfortunately, the clock behind me doesn't work, which I probably should have put batteries in it. So I've stolen your time. You thought you've only been here for 10 minutes. Obviously, we'll wrap up now. But thanks once again for coming into my flat and chatting with me and stuff. It's always delightful and inspirational talking to you. So if you want to, I'll include links in the description and stuff, but just tell people one more time where they can find you and stuff and all the things you're involved with, and we'll wrap this up.
Yep. So MuscleApe, www.muscleape.co.uk. So that's boot camps, that's personal one-on-one training and MMA, strength and conditioning, generally lifting stuff, lifting heavy stuff and punching shit, basically. Sports massage as well. So, you know, if I break you in a session, I'll fix you and then I'll throw you straight back in to get broke. Great cycle. So that's that. That's on Instagram, Facebook. Limitless Float is limitlessfloat.com. Instagram, Facebook, and that is the other end of the scale. That is dropping all the stress out of your life, floating in Epsom salt, and just completely chilling out. It's fantastic, which is, again, part of my Kaizen. I'm going to be doing that every other week now.
Oh, man, that's going to be lush. It's it's an incredible experience doing float labs, and float tanks. Me and Megan are going to definitely be doing more this year, and yours is the only one for us. So you'll be brilliant. Definitely will not be.
Thank you. It's been good chat.
Yeah,
you always lose time. It's good.
I know. Yeah, unfortunately, you have to get up at like ridiculous o'clock in the morning, or we could have chatted even more. So I'll stop it right here. And that's the end of the podcast. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. I really hope you enjoyed my second conversation with Jarrod Speed. Obviously, if you haven't already tuned into episode 104 of Genuine Chit-Chat, which was like a year or so ago, that's when Jarrod came on my podcast for the first time, and that's when we spoke about his flotation tanks at Limitless Float, you know, where you lay in salt water in a pod and you float and you just have like a sensory deprivation tank sort of experience. Really, really good. I've done it a couple times. It feels great on your muscles and it's just really good for your mind and things. But we have a whole conversation about that and weight loss and fitness and what it's like running his own businesses and things. So if you want even more information on Jarrod Speed and you haven't already gone back and listened to that, I really, really recommend checking that out, and then obviously following Jarrod on social media. So what have we got coming up then? Well, I have got a two-parter recorded with friend of the show, Chris Brayton of the I Like to Like Things podcast. He came on my show in, I think it was October-ish sort of time in 2021. And we just had a really, really fun conversation about his podcast and about like nerdy things as well. Me and him talk like most days about all kinds of different stuff. And he's had an absolutely incredible weight loss journey. He's lost over 200 pounds. And it was just so inspiring speaking to him. So after speaking with Jarrod about his adventure, you know, climbing up a mountain and things, I think the next episode talking about weight loss and mindset and things is a really good continuation. The two podcasts really benefit from each other. So, you know, make sure you subscribe and check that one out that's coming out. And as I said, that will be a two-parter. So, you know, Patreon plug once again. When part one drops on this feed, obviously you guys will hear it as part one, but the full unsplit conversation will drop on Patreon. And then when part two drops on this feed, Patreons will get an extra bonus afterthoughts episode that me and Megan do, reviewing movies or TV series or stuff like that. We've got a few under our belt, which we're going to talk about soon as well. So, yeah, that's a little plug there. Going forward, what else have we got? So I've got a couple of authors coming on the show. There's Ideally, I think 3 of them. 2 have confirmed, 1 I'm still waiting on. One of them, it's a fiction book based on real life. One of them is a graphic novel, and the other one is a non-fiction book. So we'll see about how they all go. One of them's already booked in. I've got Brad Sugars returning sort of the tail end of February to talk about his newest book, and he's like a very successful entrepreneur. He came on my show, I want to say like 2 years ago. So he'll be on for about an hour or so, I think, talking about that. I've got some other podcasters lined up I want to chat with. There's a comic book color artist I want to chat with. There's someone I'm in talks with at the moment who is a writer for certain video games, so that's going to be very exciting to speak with them. So I've got a lot of cool things in the pipeline of this year. I've also reached out to a couple of artists that I like, who are musical artists, people who release music, and so I'm hoping to have a few more of those on the show, including one who's going to be a returning guest this year. So loads of people that are very exciting to speak to, just expanding my passions and things and trying to get you guys the best conversations possible while also having conversations that I really want to have. There's also a few things you guys could do to help out the show aside from contributing financially on Patreon. One of them would be subscribing to my YouTube channel. So even if you don't use YouTube that much, or if you use YouTube loads, please go over. The link is in the description, but if you type in Genuine Chit-Chat into YouTube, it should be one of the first things that comes up. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers so I can change my channel link. Obviously, like less than 1% of you basically listen on YouTube, so I understand why there's some trepidation towards doing that, but it would really help me out. And also on YouTube, there's certain video elements that I put on there. So some of the conversations that I have with people do have video to them. The conversation I'm having with Chris next week, that's going to have video to it. But what I generally do is I'll release the video version when the second part drops on YouTube, just because video editing facilities on my current laptop are not great. I used to do a lot of video editing, music video making. I used to have a YouTube show and stuff, so I know how to do all that sort of stuff. My laptop isn't strong enough to do that. Maybe in the future, when I have enough money to invest in a proper computer, I'll be able to do a bit more video editing and stuff. But yeah, you can go over there and check out video versions of a lot of the conversations I've had. Also, all of my episodes of Star Wars Comics in Canon are on YouTube as well. They're in playlists too, so you can go and just listen to like every episode about Darth Vader, or every episode about Dr. Aphra, or everything that's based in the High Republic. All kinds of different elements and things that I release on the feed of Comics in Motion if you want to listen to it on a podcast player, like on Spotify or wherever else. But if you want to listen on YouTube, just check it out there, because as I said, Star Wars episodes, all the Genuine Chit-Chat episodes, some have got video as well as a few other bonus things like the occasional Comics in Motion other thing I do. And if you're a fan of the Book of Boba Fett show, or even if you're not a fan of the Book of Boba Fett show but you are still watching it, then I'm doing a weekly Book of Boba Fett discussion show on the feed of Comics in Motion that I am also releasing on my YouTube channel. Once again, some of those have video, some don't, just because certain guests don't want to have videos of themselves online, which is perfectly okay, because depending on certain people's jobs, it can kind of affect whether or not they want a visual public persona on there and things. But we have like open discussions. I speak with loads of different people about that. I'm trying to have like a different group of people relatively each episode, or at least one new person each episode, so it's a nice variety of opinions and perspectives on how the Book of Boba Fett is going as each episode kind of gets released. So if you want to hear about that and hear my views, because I'm the host for each one, as well as a huge amount of other people giving their opinions on the Book of Boba Fett, some really interesting perspectives I haven't necessarily thought of before having these conversations, then yeah, check that out, as I said, on the feed of Comics in Motion, which will be wherever you're listening to this, or on my YouTube channel. Now, if you've already subscribed on YouTube and you want to help out the show, but you don't want to do it financially, which is understandable, if you're on Spotify, you can give it a rating out of 5 stars. Obviously, I would really appreciate a 5-star rating, because that's what I think my show is worth. But I would welcome any open and honest ratings on Spotify. As I said, you don't even need to write anything. It's literally just press like 3 taps on your phone or on the computer, and that'll be done. On other places, you can give actual more full-on reviews. So you can do it obviously on Apple Podcasts. You can do it on Good Pods. You can do it on Podcast Addict. You can do it on quite a lot of different podcast players or podcast captures. You can do it on quite a few different podcast players and podcast catchers, or podcatchers, whatever you want to call it. And it would just mean a lot to me if you could do that, if possible, because it does help the show out. It gets a little bit more exposure, and it makes people who look at the show more willing to listen and whatnot. Obviously, in addition to that, you can share on social media. I'm on all the social media places, so you're welcome to tag me if desired, or you don't have to tag me at all. If you don't want the attention, you can just share to people you know, or you can just tell your friends about it, send them shows. I've got such a big back catalogue, that if you've got friends who are more into outdoorsy stuff, you can send them this conversation with Jarrod Speed. You can go into the playlist that I've got on YouTube, which is World and Exploration, and check out some of the other conversations I've had to do with similar veins. If you have friends who are just into science stuff, I've got a science playlist. Like, there's loads of different ways that you can share and support the show that you don't have to contribute financially. Obviously, supporting on Patreon is my favourite way for you guys to do that, and also you get loads of hours of additional content, but I appreciate not everyone is in the position who wants to do that, or not everyone values my show enough to give money to, which I also completely understand. But yeah, I just want to flag all those things to you guys. Obviously, I know some of you guys have been doing that. I've seen my subscribers on YouTube have been going up a little bit by some people, so I know some of you are taking note of me requesting that, and I do hugely appreciate that. And obviously, I really appreciate anyone who does listen on Patreon, but none of my Patreon supporters are probably listening to this episode because they obviously had access to part 2 of this chat a week ago. But yeah, just thank you so much for listening. As always, guys, please give Jarrod Speed all the love on social media. Please help out the show where you can in any facet that you could. It genuinely means the absolute world to me. And obviously just thank you for listening, because I wouldn't be doing this if you guys weren't all listening. I would just be a weirdo chatting to myself in my office. So yeah, exciting stuff to come. Really appreciate you guys listening, and yeah, I'll be back next week with part 1 of my chat with Chris Brayton.
You have just experienced host, creator, everything elser of Genuine Chit-Chat, and also the host and creator of Star Wars comics and canon, found on the Comics in Motion podcast, Mike Burton.